The Beast of ThornRaven. Nestled deep in the shadowy woods of the Appalachian Mountains, the town of ThornRaven clung to its traditions and superstitions like ivy on a crumbling stone wall. It was a place where the wind always seemed to carry whispers, and the full moon painted the forest in ghostly silver. The townsfolk were known for their caution, especially during the autumn months when the nights stretched longer, and the howling from the hills became more frequent. Nathan Grady had heard the stories growing up, the tales of a creature that stalked the forest during the full moon. But like most young men, he dismissed them as folklore, the kind of thing meant to keep kids from wandering too far from home. Nathan was practical, a hunter by trade, and believed in what he could see and touch. On the first night of the full moon in October, Nathan stood on his porch, his rifle leaning against the wooden railing. His dog, a wiry mutt named Jasper, paced nervously, ears pinned back as a low growl rumbled in his throat. The sound of distant howling sent a chill crawling up Nathan's spine. "Just coyotes," he muttered, though he didn't quite believe it. The next morning, the town buzzed with grim news. Old Mrs. Calloway's sheep had been slaughtered, ripped apart in a frenzy that left the ground soaked with blood. Nathan and a few other men inspected the carnage. The wounds were too large and deep for coyotes, and there were claw marks gouged into the wooden fence posts. "Bear?" suggested one of the men, his voice tinged with doubt. "Too early for a bear to be this active," Nathan replied, his brow furrowed. "Something's not right." Mrs. Calloway swore she'd seen a shadowy figure lurking near the tree line the night before. "It wasn't no bear," she said, her voice trembling. "It was walking on two legs, like a man, but it wasn't a man." Nathan exchanged uneasy glances with the others, but said nothing. That night, he decided to set a trap in the woods near the Calloway farm. The forest was alive with the sounds of crickets and the occasional rustle of leaves. Nathan crouched near a clearing, his rifle in hand, and Jasper by his side. A large animal trap lay hidden beneath a thin layer of dirt and leaves, baited with raw meat. Hours passed. The moon hung high, bathing the woods in an eerie glow. Jasper began to grow restless, his hackles rising as he sniffed the air. Suddenly, the crickets fell silent. Nathan's breath hitched. He heard it then, a deep growl that seemed to reverberate through his chest. The sound was followed by heavy, deliberate footsteps. He strained his eyes, peering into the shadows, and then he saw it. The creature was massive, at least 7 feet tall, with matted fur that glistened in the moonlight. Its eyes glowed a sickly yellow, and its elongated snout revealed sharp, blood-stained teeth. It moved with a horrifying mix of animalistic grace and human-like purpose. Nathan froze, his heart pounding in his ears. Jasper barked furiously, lunging forward, but Nathan grabbed his collar just in time. The beast turned its head sharply, its gaze locking onto Nathan's. For a moment, the world seemed to stand still. Then it lunged. Nathan fired his rifle, the sound echoing through the trees. The beast howled in pain but didn't stop. It slashed at the air, narrowly missing Jasper as Nathan scrambled backward. The creature stepped into the trap, and the jaws snapped shut around its leg with a sickening crunch. The beast let out a blood-curdling roar, thrashing wildly. Nathan seized the moment, grabbing Jasper and running as fast as he could. Behind him, the creature's howls grew fainter, but they were filled with a promise of vengeance. By morning, Nathan returned to the site with a group of armed townsfolk, but the trap was empty. The only evidence of the struggle was a trail of blood leading deeper into the forest. "It's hurt," Nathan said, "but not dead." The town descended into panic. Livestock were brought indoors, and people locked their doors and windows at night. Whispers of the old stories resurfaced. The tales of the ThornRaven beast, a werewolf cursed to roam the woods and feed under the full moon. Sheriff Alan Carter, a skeptical man, organized nightly patrols but dismissed the werewolf theory as hysteria. "It's an animal," he insisted. "A big one, sure, but not some mythical monster." Nathan wasn't so sure. The creature he'd seen wasn't just an animal. Its eyes had intelligence, a malevolent cunning that haunted his dreams. Determined to end the terror, Nathan prepared for the second night of the full moon. He packed silver bullets, just in case, and ventured into the forest with Jasper. The townsfolk begged him to reconsider, but Nathan was stubborn. "If we don't kill it now, it'll just keep coming back," he said. The forest was unnaturally quiet that night, as if the very trees were holding their breath. Nathan followed the blood trail from the previous night, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Jasper stayed close, his ears swiveling at every sound. Suddenly, A low growl rumbled from the shadows. Nathan turned just in time to see the beast charging at him. He fired, but the shot went wide. The creature knocked him to the ground, its claws raking across his arm. Jasper lunged at the beast, sinking his teeth into its leg. The creature howled, swatting the dog aside, but the distraction gave Nathan enough time to grab his rifle. He fired again, this time hitting the creature in the chest. The beast stumbled, blood spraying from the wound, but it didn't fall. Instead, it let out an ear-splitting roar and disappeared into the trees. Nathan sat trembling, clutching his bleeding arm. Jasper limped back to his side, his tail wagging weakly. "We're not done yet," Nathan muttered, his voice shaking. On the third night of the full moon, the townsfolk gathered at the church, their faces pale with fear. Nathan, bandaged and exhausted, stood at the pulpit to speak. "This thing won't stop until it's dead," he said. "We have to work together. It's hurt, but it's smart. We can't let our guard down." A plan was formed. The men would set traps around the outskirts of town while Nathan and a few others lured the creature into an ambush. As the moon rose, the tension in ThornRaven was palpable. Nathan and his group waited in the clearing near the edge of the forest, their weapons at the ready. The air was thick with anticipation. Then came the howl. The beast emerged from the shadows, its movements slower, but no less menacing. Blood matted its fur, and its glowing eyes burned with rage. Nathan fired, and the others followed suit. The creature roared, leaping toward them despite its wounds. One of the traps caught its foot, and it stumbled, giving Nathan a clear target. He aimed for its heart and pulled the trigger. The beast let out one final growl before collapsing to the ground. By dawn, the town gathered to see the creature's body. It had reverted to human form, a man none of them recognized. The sheriff, pale and shaken, ordered the body burned, insisting the incident be kept quiet. Nathan returned home, but he couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The forest still felt alive with something dark, and the howling never truly stopped. In ThornRaven, the stories would live on, whispered by firelight as a warning to never venture too far into the woods, especially under the full moon.